Good afternoon. Welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, as you know, today we have organized a lecture on migration. Migration is a matter of concern to everybody, but when we see the migration in a historical perspective, we find two distinct features. One, there is no confined to that any time period. Since the very beginning, Indus civilization, when we start till date, we find there are kind of people migrated from one region to another region. The factor is, of course, many, but the economic factor has been more dominant. There are other factors. So we'll try to see today migration in historical perspective. What are the regions, how they migrated, what the occupation they adopted, and what are the activities they have changed, and what are the impact on different aspects of life. So we'll try to understand this in different perspective. And for discussion on this very topic, we have in studio Dr. Anand Vardhan. He is a historian, and he tried to understand the migration from a historical perspective and from the perspective of activities what they undertake when they occupy the different regions. So I think his knowledge and experience will help us to understand this topic. So on behalf, I welcome him. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Migration is very important actually in context of growth of civilization. Different kinds of economic activities, commingling of culture, and evolution of syncretic cultures. Migration is just not, it doesn't take place only because of certain economic compulsions. What kind of perception we have today, that people generally migrate from an underdeveloped area, economically backward area to urban centers. This is one of the prominent reasons. If you will try to understand the very nature of migration in terms of its historical perspective, you will find that in ancient past, in different parts of the world, in divergent areas, migration was a very common feature. We hear stories of karma moving from one region to another region, and in that way the trading communities migrated from one part of the world to another part of the world. The ancient civilization of Mayans, Mexicans, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and of course India are very important examples of those communities who had migrated from one region to another. They had settled, finding conducive environment in certain pockets of the world, and they have contributed to the growth of a distinct cultural identity in that region. If somebody is really very keenly interested in understanding the history of migration in Indian context, you already know that India is considered as an anthropologist paradise, because here the commingling of culture, different ethnic groups in terms of racial identity, in terms of cultural identity, had taken place in time immemorial, and this synthesis had been responsible for evolution of the culture which we call Indian culture. From Harappan cities, which are of course one of the most ancient civilizations of the world, we have got skeleton remains of people belonging to different races like Mediterranean race, also of the people who are like common Indians, also of the Mongoloid race. So this kind of evidences that we have got from Indus Valley region is a very significant find, and it proves the fact that the migration as an human activity had been since very long time, and without migration sharing of ideas is not possible. Once you migrate from one region, either may be anything, it may be because of economic compulsion, it may be because of some environmental problems and hazards, there may be some political region, but once the community migrates to another region, they carry with themselves ample of ideas, knowledge of traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and when they merge with different other communities, these ideas are commonly then shared by the people, and it helps us in the growth of science, technology, economic life. So this can be seen in respect of Indus Valley civilization. This was one of the largest civilization of its own time. In that, people of Mediterranean race and even of Mongoloid race, they lived together, and it had taken place because of the human nature of migration. If somebody has really understanding of the intrazonal trade of Indus Valley period, we can see that right from entire Baluchistan region, from North Baluchistan up to South Baluchistan, there were Harappan cities, and in the large part of India, in mainly northwestern part of India, including states like Gujarat, then Rajasthan and Haryana, we have got very good number of settlements. So these communities, there were several urban centers which had developed within the geographical boundary of Indus Valley civilization, but they had cultural relation with other places, like Harappan pottery have been found in Gufkaral and Burjahom. Similarly, at a place named Tekalkota in Karnataka, we have got Harappan bronze objects. So intrazonal trade was taking place in that particular period, and people of the local communities who were quarrying the gold mine of Kolar at that time, they were exporting gold to the Harappans. And similarly, Harappan objects were also coming to these areas. For example, a place like Damabad can be taken. From there, objects were coming to Harappan cities. So from urban to rural migration or rural to urban migration for a specific period was also taking place in that period. Then the history of India is of course very much interesting in terms of the invasion, or you can say migration of Aryan from Central Asia to India. Generally we believe that long back in 6000 BC, or according to some scholars it may be 3000 BC. The general view is that in 1500 BC a major exodus in India has taken place, and this major exodus was that of a new kind of race, new kind of people who were harbingers of new ideas, and they migrated from the region of Central Asia to northwest India, and they settled in Sapta Sindhu region. They lived in small huts, unlike the Harappans who were living in the cities, and they were using horses and also chariots. So their migration, you can say, is an important episode of Indian history, and it is very much important till this date in respect of the cultural life that we have in this country. So Aryans came and settled, and we know from different groups like Dasaj and Dasyuj, which these kind of Vratyas, these terms have been used for different social groups of that time, and it appears from Vedic literature that this migration had not taken place in a day, it had taken a long course of time. As Max Muller even had said that in between 6000 BC to 1500 BC the migration might have taken place, and this 1500 BC is considered as age of Rigveda. In that the Aryan people came and settled in India. As far as the description of these three very important names are concerned that I have taken, Dasa, Dasyu and Vratya. So these were distinct communities or the group of Aryans. Originally Aryans themselves were part of these groups, and they had migrated to this country. They were following different traditions. So when the major chunk of Aryan people came to the country, they have considered as people different from their social group. And in this respect, we find that there are mantras, there are suktas which describe assimilation of dasas with the main fold of the Aryan culture. And we also know about a kind of Vratyostha sanskar, basically a sacerdotal practice of purifying the Vratyas and bringing them within the purview of the Aryan cultural social life. So, such kind of references one may find in Rigvedic literature. In India also, in India generally the local migration had been, the process had been quite swift after the Rigvedic period. And there is one very important Brahmanical text named Satpat Brahman. This is a wonderful text, describes the story of Videha Madhava, and this Videha Madhava migrated from the Sapta Sindhu Pradesh, the region of 7 sacred rivers that included 5 rivers of Punjab and then Saraswati and Drishdavati, which are now been called Ghaggar and Hakra. From this region, Videha Madhava, who was the leader of Aryans, he migrated to the region of Sadanira. Sadanira is the word which is synonym to a perennial river in Sanskrit, and it is now used for river Gandaki that flows through Bihar. So, they migrated to North Bihar, and this is also said that a very good number of Aryans were with them. They cleared the forest cover that was in the entire middle Gangetic plain, and they were having Vaishva Nar Agni, a fire. Probably fire was used for clearing the forest, for burning the forest and transforming it into agricultural land. We will have to understand here one very important aspect of this particular story, and that is linked to the river Saraswati. And the satellite pictures also bring to the fore, bring to the light that after a particular period Saraswati river dried up, and Saraswati was earlier the life force for the entire Vedic community or the Vedic people or Vedic Aryans, and once the river dried up because of certain tectonic movement or because of its separation from the original glacier, whatever was the reason, we find the story that Markandeya migrated in Himalaya, and that he performed a tapasya that God should re-allow the water of Himalaya to flow down through the river Saraswati, but it couldn't happen, and a new river however emerged as if result of his tapasya, his meditation, and that is Markandeya river that was named after him. But Saraswati valley was undoubtedly vacated, and around 1000 you can say Harappan sites or post Harappan sites also are part of that, have been found from Saraswati valley, and these sites were deserted after a period. It's appear like that they migrated to middle Gangetic plain. Here it is very important in context of present day demographic situation of India also, that the density of population in middle Gangetic plain from very historical period had been much more than the population density that had been in other parts of the country. And the reason is of course very clear, that the area has very conducive environment for agricultural growth, and the surplus economy, the agrarian surplus in later phase was actually been achieved in this particular region due to availability of water, due to fertile land, and due to good forest cover, fertility of the land. And these were the regions that migration from northwest part of the country, from the region of Balochistan, Afghanistan, modern day Pakistan, Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan had been constant in ancient time, in later Vedic period. This is not just a story, this is the reality, and we find that people had settled in the region of three important rivers, which is known as Trigarta in ancient literature. Here I would like to mention that in Kashmir also, the Kashmir region is also known as Trigarta, and where there are three great rivers, where are three great gorges. And in the region of Bihar also, there you have Gandaki, Vagmati and Kausiki. These area of these three rivers are called Trigarta, and this is also known, Mithila region is also known Trihotrapur. So we find that later Vedic literature very explicitly describe about many you can say stories which are linked to the region of Mithila, which is linked to the region of Trihotrapur, which is linked to the region of Trigarta or Sadanira. From there, we find that people in exploration of better agricultural lands or more fertile land, once the demography really increased, they had to think about migration in other regions. So they migrated in the region of Anga, that is the region of modern Bhagalpur, also Banga, which is the region of Bengal, and then Magadha, and from Magadha the region of Jharkhand, people had migrated to Odisha. So we know that once people migrated to the region of Magad, it resulted into the growth of a large monarchical estate, and this had become again this was very important development, because the people of Magadha intermingled with the people of the region of Jharkhand region, Magad region, that was known as Kikatwan at that time, or Uruvela at that time. So because of commingling of culture, the Aryans were greatly been benefited, and they learnt the art of quarrying the mines for tin, for copper, for bronze and even iron, and that played very vital role in that. It was from this Magadha region that people had migrated even in ancient time to the region of Jharkhand, or to some regions of Chhattisgarh, and to some region of Odisha. And we also know about some interesting story, and it may be historic, it is of course historically correct also, that from people from Odisha region, there had taken place migration of people to the region of Sri Lanka, and Odisha is also known as Lankapuri and Swarnapuri, and there are places which have been identified by a few archaeologists which can be equated with the linked with the story of Ramayana. So similarly there is impact of Odishan language also on the Similese language. So migration in ancient time had taken place from Odisha region to Singhal region. For that we have some linguistic evidences, and on the basis of philological study it can be also be established that in the region of in Jharkhand you have also evidences of many of the Dravidian words which are of Tamil origin. So how it had taken place, basically this had taken place because of course there had been migration probably of a large social group at that time from this particular region, from north side only to southward. They had might have migrated to the region of peninsular India in terms of better livelihood, a very safe kind of life, and whether they explored new horizons, they explored new agricultural land, and their human settlements emerged. We can find a number of examples in ancient Indian literature where we find description of Ganaj, and the people of Ganaj migrated from one region to another region. We hear about the Vedic people who were constantly moving from one place to another place in search of better livelihood. Sardha, Vrata, Gana, there have been used different terms in ancient Vedic literature for people who were moving from one region to another. Even the word Jan has not been used basically for people who had settled in particular region. It is for those people who were living nomadic life. Bharat, Srinjay, Tritsu, Yadu, Turubas, Druhu, these are name of the tribesmen who moved from one region to another region. And in this respect, we see they were living, they were having pastoral kind economy, and migration from one region to another region was very much required, because animal grazing was very important aspect of their of their community life, of their economic life. So we find different words that have originated from the word go, like Gavyuti, Godhuli, and Godhana, Goghana. Such kinds of words have originated, which are actually linked to animals. And go means, you know, even in English, go means to move. So cows are those who constantly move. This is a philological interpretation of the word go, now of Vedic Sanskrit. We find that Vedas mention, or ancient literature mentioned about Chara Shanya. Chara is a Sanskrit dhatu, it is a verb. Chara means to move. Charati, Chalati, the word has originated from it, and we get reference of 5 moving group of people who are moving from one region to another region. So we get reference of 5 major groups actually of people, and Vedas describe them as Pancha Charasanya, the 5 major immigrant groups, 5 groups of itinerants moving from one part of the country to another part of to another region. This is also very important to note that the history of migration in ancient literature is very clear, very explicit, and one very important description that we find, it is all about the Abhir Jan. So these Abhir Jan migrated towards southward. Earlier they were living in the region of Haryana. There was a region known as Abhirwadi, Abhirwad, Abhira Pradesh. From that the modern word Rewadi has actually been, which is a corrupt form of Abhirwad. So it has originated, and Abhir people, they were living in this area. They migrated towards south and even towards the region of Deccan and Western India region of Gujarat, and they settled there. And these Abhirs are now known as Ahirs, which is used for a specific community. The term is used for a specific community of the country, specifically for a particular caste cluster. So the migration of Janas, the migration of different tribal groups, it is very explicit, very clear in ancient Indian literature. We are talking about Ganas. This is very interesting to note that Malava, Chudraka, Arjunayan, Yodheya, Kuninda, Odumbar, these different tribals names we find in names of these Ganas. You can better term as oligarchic republics of ancient India, and they were living a very organized kind of life, which quasi-democratic kind of setup in ancient times, but they also migrated under some political compulsion. When there was some intrusion, some foreign invasion in the western, from the side of Western Asiatic region, under compulsion they migrated to some region, and this is how Malwa is a place in Punjab, and from their region Malwa, the people called Malava. Malava is name of a gun. They migrated to the region of modern day Madhya Pradesh, and that region is also known as Malwa. So there is a Malwa in Punjab, there is a Malwa in the region of Madhya Pradesh, and it had this region, this name has changed because of migration. Interestingly, in eastern Uttar Pradesh, central Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, there is a very important community of Brahmin and its sub-clans who are still known as Malve or Malviye. So they are people who have migrated from Malwa to that particular region. This community, Malve community in Bihar, they are known as Paschima Brahman who came from Western India. So such kind of historical episodes of exodus are very much ingrained in people's psyche, sorry, rather we should say it is part of the collective memory of the people. It is people remember it that from where they have migrated, and it is this can be understood in respect of the very perception of Gotra, the different clan names, also in respect to surnames it can be understood also. So, in ancient India we find that there had been migration from different regions, and it was not only migration from different parts of the country, from other parts of the globe also there had taken migration had taken place, and especially in northwestern India that can be considered a very fertile ground for commingling of culture, intermingling of races, and it had given a new outlook to ancient Indian society, like the identity of Sakas, the Indo-Bactrians, Indo-Greeks, even of the one immigrant tribe, Yu Chi, this is the Chinese name, and India they ruled with the dynastic name Kushanas. They ruled for a very quite long time over northwestern and major part of Gangetic Valley, the Indo-Gangetic Doab, the Gangetic Jamuna Doab, and these Kushanas they merged with the local Indian community by adopting the religion of this particular region, and it is very much clear from the name of the Kushana king, the last of them who is Vasudeva, the name you find, that is a typical Vaishnavite name, and it is linked to the Bhagavata cult. So we can see the how ancient communities coming from different parts of the world, they mingled with Indian social groups, accepted Indian religions, became part and parcel of it, and now you don't identify them who belongs to the Indo-Greek lineage in this country. We all are Indians, but there had been a time where these social groups which had migrated from different parts of the world had distinct identity, and in long historical process they had been absorbed in the society. Manu had well described about the Adham Kula Kshatriya, that these foreigners, whether they are Sakas and Yavanas, they have been called also Maleksha in some of our ancient literature, but Manu has described them as Adham Kul Kshatriya, lower grade Kshatriyas, and it was because they were also, they belonged to warrior clan, they were working for the army of Indian kings, and so this kind of social identity was formed by them. It is also interesting to note that in Indian Shastras various interesting stories had been framed actually in respect to give them a social recognition in ancient time, and we find the story of Yayati. It's a very interesting one, that Yayati from India had migrated to Europe, and he settled in Europe. He married European girl, and then from his wife there had born a community of the Sakas and Yavanas, and these Yavanas are basically the sons of ancient sage Yayati, and they later on migrated to India. This is a quite interesting story. We know from ancient literature and from some foreign sources also that Indians excelled in trade, and migration from the side of India had been also very significant. It was not the migration of people from Central Asia, West Asia, from the side of from the region of Syria, Turkmenistan to India. Indians also migrated in different parts of the world, and there comes the very significant story of the Indian traders who migrated to the region of Govi, migrated to the region of Central Asian region, controlled over the trade route, Silk route, and they had settled there. They established their Mahaviharas, and they played very dynamic role in the growth of Central Asiatic culture and in the growth of Chinese culture as well. And we get the name of a scholar itinerants like Kumarajiva. Kumarajiva's story is very important in this respect, that he was born to an Indian father and a Central Asiatic mother, returned to region of Kashmir for education, and after getting education in Indian mainland, he had migrated to Central Asia, and there he worked as a great teacher in his own time. One very interesting aspect is that Takshashila, very important city that was in terms of different educational activities it was having. It was the largest hub in ancient time as far as cultural and educational activities are concerned, and it was on confluence of several cultures. It was on midway to Central Asia, to West Asia, and this city was a very prosperous city. We know Purushpur, Sialkot, and Takshashila, and then Kasgar, Khotan, Yarkand. These were some very important cities of ancient time, and they were situated on trade route, and there people from different communities, different regions had settled. They had migrated to that region because these were very, very prosperous cities. And very specifically, we will have to talk about Takshila, because this history of migration to Takshila, and then from migration from Takshila to other parts of the country, that is very significant. And in this respect, I would like to quote that once the intrusion of the Huns, white Huns from Central Asia constantly increased, that was in search of food, because India was known as a land very rich in terms of agricultural production. India was a rich country, just not because of agricultural production, because of its share in international trade, because of its craftsmanship, because of its silp, its kala, its art and architecture, and different commodities that India was producing. So there was not one reason for looking towards India and migrating in India, whether this migration had been in form of invasion or it has been a general exodus. That I am not going to discuss at this juncture. But once these white Huns started migrating towards India, and the primary factor was that due to lack of food, they started intervening, intruding into different regions, and no other region in Asia was so important as was India in terms of food production. Political ambition had been one another thing, but the reason for invasion was, of course, the prosperity of the India. And once they started encroaching there, entering there in Indian boundary, within the cultural boundary of India, the scholars of Takshashila started migrated, but life started becoming very difficult in that region, and this has been responsible for growth, emergence of Nalanda University, that was earlier a small Nalak Mahavihar, emerged as a grand Mahavihar, because scholars from West Asia also migrated, and Nalanda was in a safe zone. It was close to Patliputra, and it was the king of Patliputra who could have better defended the cultural boundary and was having the largest empire, so they migrated towards Nalanda. The kings of Patliputra in this region had not deployed army in the Khyber Valley, and probably like the Mauryans, that has been one of the regions that Huns penetrated in Indian mainland, and entire western India was disturbed. Then migration started taking place, and they had migrated to the region of Magadha. In terms of the identities of different Indian social group, caste and class cluster also, my understanding of migration is very, very significant. As I have told you that in Bihar and in the Middle Gangetic Plain, there are different communities, especially Brahmanical communities. They link themselves to their ancient identity that is important in geographical context. And one name I am taking, that is of a subclan of Brahmin, Sakal Dvipi. This Sakal Dvipi is Sialkot, and till this date a very good number of Brahmins who belong to Sakal Dvipi community, they know this fact that they have migrated from Shakaldeep. Similarly, I have talked about Honaz intervention and penetration. Kamboj was part of cultural India. There migrated Brahmins from Nagarhar, that is in Afghanistan region, and they are Nagar Brahmins of Gujarat, and from Gujarat they migrated to other parts of the country. They are still known as Nagar. There are people who were doing the Lipik work, and they were also part, if not part of that community, they were part of their society, and they were doing the works of scribes. They are known as Bhatnagar. So this word Nagar comes from Nagarhar, an important city that has been in the region of Takshila, and they migrated to the region of Gujarat, and from Gujarat this migration had taken them, many of them had migrated to other parts of the country. This is one example. Kamboj, this term I have used, that they migrated from the region of Kamboj, that was again on the boundary of Central Asia and was part of northwest India, from Gandhara and Kamboj. Above Gandhar there was the region of Kamboj. So they migrated to this region, and one may find surname of a North Indian Brahmin today, that is Kamboj. We can take other examples as well. One may try to establish, understand this history of migration on the basis of this surname and clan names. Kanyakubja is basically Kanyakubja, the ancient Kannauj, the city from where Harsha ruled, from the city which had been considered the great seat of literature and learning, and the Brahmins of this region are considered as great scholars. They migrated to other parts of the country. Still they are known as Kanyakubja Brahmins. Then other communities also, you can find this identity so significant in India. There is community of Barbars, and they also call themselves, we are Kanaujiya Barbars, we are Awadhiya Barbars, we are basically from Awadh region. So this region, Kanaujiya, Awadhiya, these are still linked with clan identities in different parts of the country. One example I would like to quote, this is again a very significant example of the migration of communities. This is a wonderful example, and how the caste identities even changed because of migration. This is one of the most fantastic aspect of migration history in India, that people from Jaisamand region of Rajasthan, these people, as they belong to Jaisamand region, started calling themselves Jaiswal. They were basically of the Kshatriya clan. They migrated to North India and started business. Business became their identity, and they are still called Jaiswal, but now they are not part of the Kshatriya community. They are now part of the Vaishya community in India, but they still remember the history of migration. They know it, that they had migrated from Jaisamand region. It had taken many times. This kind of episodes are linked to every region, and we have countless number of evidences of migration from one region to another region. I am again taking one very significant example, that is the migration from Karnataka region, East Karnataka, and Andhra region. The region was known as Karnat. The people who migrated to North India, they had been called Karnat, and they migrated to Bengal. From Bengal they entered to Mithila. Probably they followed this Andhra and Odisha route. They became rulers. They were socially and economically quite powerful in Bengal. They captured Mithila, and a new dynasty emerged in Mithila. That dynasty was Karnat dynasty. It is interesting to note that people from Andhra region who migrated to Mithila and settled there at a village, the name of that village is Andhra Thari. That is a very significant, this name itself is very significant because of the term Andhra, which has been used as a suffix for the name of this village. This shows the migration history is very, very significant, immensely significant. They migrated from Karnataka regions, that's why they were called Karnata, and Karnataka, a larger part of Carnatic plain is part of modern day Andhra Pradesh. But this identity that they are Andhrites, this had been part of their collective memory, and we have a village known as Andhrathari. Then another important region example I am taking, that is village Saurat, and this is a corrupt form of Saurashtra. The region is used for southern part of Gujarat, and Brahmins migrated to Mithila, and they were patronized by this Karnat who stayed at village, and that village is still known as that was called Saurashtra because Saurashtriya Brahmins stayed there. So in one region Mithila you can find people who had migrated from Kamboj, people who migrated from Rajasthan, the people migrated from Gujarat, people migrated from Andhra Pradesh and also from Karnataka region. So such kind of histories, local histories, they are very much significant in terms of migration of people from one corner to another corner of the country, from one coast to another coast of the country. I think Dr. Abhay would like to participate.
No, continue.
Oh. So we can this is and what I was telling that village histories are very much significant. I have studied, I am trying basically to know and understand the history of villages, some of the villages in Bihar, that what the people remember about their migration. I am going to talk about one community, Swarna Bhadra. The term is Son Bhadra. They migrated from the region of Son Valley, from the region of Son, and they had settled in different parts of Bihar. And this clan name is still very, very significant. Similarly, as I have told earlier, that due to administrative factors, there had taken place migration from the region of Bihar to the region of Gujarat, Rajasthan and Maharashtra. And an ancient dynasties of Kuntal claimed that they were of Mauryan origin, they belonged to Patliputra. Similarly, the ruling dynasty in Rajasthan region known as Maurya, they called themselves of the lineage of the great Mauryans of Maurya period. So they had migrated there. Similarly, we have many mythical stories in our hagiographical literature about Parsurama, and this mythical story is very interesting because Parsuram consolidated an army in Trihotrapur in Magadha, then went to the Narmada region. He had a very ferocious battle with Arjuna, Sahasrabahu Arjuna in the region of Gujarat. Then he had migrated to Kerala, where the Nambudri Paths claims that they came from Garta region, Trihotra region. Similarly, we find that there are communities known as Padukon and Marvin Kurve. These two communities are very important and they are settled in the region of Konkan. And the Konkani language had tremendous impact of Magadhi language. On the basis of philological study also, the migration history can be understood. So this Padukon, Padu means west and Kon means angle. So village that is actually in the western corner of the country. You already know the name of Deepika Padukone and his illustrious father Prakash Padukone. And there had been a case in Bangalore High Court whether these people of Padukone and Marvin Kurve communities, they are Saraswat Brahman, how this migration had taken place. They are Saraswats. They migrated from Saraswati region to the region of Gandaki and Trihotrapur in Bihar, from Trihotrapur to Magad, and from Magad to the western part of the country, and the reason was political. It was not because of economic compulsion. They migrated to this particular region because of this factor that administrative appointments were made during Mauryan period and Gupta period, and even the High Court report says that they migrated from the region of Bihar. So we get very interesting examples of migration from one region to another region in the country. In 17th, 18th century also, we find that the process of migration remained quite fast. Once the Indian economy was colonized, however, the very phenomena and the very nature basically of migration somehow changed. We find names of very important cities of 16th, 17th century. Surat was one important city where people from different regions had migrated, even from North India, Gangetic Valley they had migrated because it was a very important port city. And Surat was having people from not only Gujaratis people, there were Parsians. The story of migration of Parsian is also quite interesting, and I would like to quote it, that after the downfall of the rule of Ibn Khurdabadeh, many of the Parsis migrated to India, even Arabs had migrated, Syrians had migrated, and they had settled in the region of Chaul, Kalyan, and many of them also settled in the region of Kerala, and they were working as bilinguals. They were playing very important role in maritime trade with the Western world, and once they found that because of invasion by the Arabs on Persian region, the situation, political situation in Persia had become troublesome for Parsis. They decided to settle in India, and in India they were given proper political patronage. They were granted lands. Even Arab Muslims were granted land, and they decided to settle in India because India was playing very important role in international trade. The story of Malabar and Kerala is also interesting, where you find the first Syrian church reached. Syrian people settled there, Arabs settled there, and on the basis of the genetic study of the social history of Kerala, it has come to light that actually the migration of male, in terms of the total demography that Kerala is presently having, the migration of male was much more than the migration of female. The females were basically from the same region, but people from Arab worlds, they came from Syria, they came and they settled there. So India attracted different communities of the world to come, to live, to stay, to contribute to the growth of its culture, and this is how the syncretic culture of India has emerged. The migration within India itself has a very interesting history, and one another point that on that I would like to focus, that people from Rajasthan, people from Maharashtra migrated in great number to Himalayan valley, to the region of Himachal, to the region of modern day Uttarakhand, and it was after penetration of the Arabs, Persians and Turks in these regions that they looked for a secluded and comparatively safe place, and they migrated to Himalayan regions. In terms of India, in respect to India, this is also very important to understand that religion played a very dynamic role also in migration of some communities from eastern part of the country to the western part of country. Shastras says that the mathas of West India must have Brahmins, not Brahmins, ritualists, ritual specialists from eastern part of the country. Similarly, the matha of Shankar, especially of Puri or the Odisha region, must have Brahmins from Gujarat region. The matha in Himalayas, monasteries in Himalayas must have Brahmins from South India, and mathas of South India and temples of South India must have Brahmins from the North India. So, because of the concept of Tirthayatra, a kind of religious, you can say, activity, and you can say India is religious-centric society, and where dharma has a very important role in common man's life. This perception was developed that you have to visit to all Jyotirlingas, to all Tirthas, and we find that major trading centers, where it is Kanchipuram or ancient Udaipur or Tanjavur or Trivandrum or Ujjain. In ancient time, traders had settled, Not only traders, ritualists from different regions had settled there. Banaras is one very living example, a vivid example of that, where you find that a great number of community of ritual specialists settled down. They came from different regions. Similarly, Puri, a sacred complex of Puri, is a wonderful example of that, where ritual specialists from different regions had gone there and settled there, because by practicing different sacerdotal activities, they could have earned much more money than what they were earning in their parent villages. So the very social, economic and political history of migration in India from different parts of the world and migration that had taken place within this country in historical times, it offers to us a very, very virgin field of study, and I really feel elated that I had been invited to speak on this particular topic, and I thank my listeners also for paying their kind attention.
Okay, what I conclude from your lecture that the migration has been a timeless phenomenon since the beginning, and also not confined to a particular geographical region. Sometimes we find from east to west, and then vice versa, north to east, and north to south, and then south to north. So, what you say the cultural accommodation or the social accommodation, political and economics. So, do you find a kind of different pattern adopted? What kind of you can say the trend emerged after that?
After which period?
Not confined to the period. What kind of general trend emerged? So that and that have given a culmination to unity in diversity. So, any certain pattern we find in all these different phases.
As I have explained that in ancient time, communities migrated from one region to another region, basically in search of better livelihood. That was the primary cause. Economic factor was one important reason. However, what we find that every community contains treasure of knowledge. And that indigenous knowledge, once it intermingles with the knowledge of other area, it really helps in the growth of culture, in growth of science and technology. So in respect to India, you may find, I can give you one example, that paddy transplantation, that had been developed in the region of Magadha basically.
Okay.
Once the people from this region, for administrative purpose, they migrated to South India, paddy transplantation certainly became popular there, and it brought a tremendous change, a desirable change in the economy of South.
Even in daily core and
Yes.
daily activities of the people.
Yes, yes.
So,
it is ultimately the knowledge that the community carries that plays very vital role in growth of culture, in growth of science, technology, economy of that region where they settle.
okay. So, when we talk about the traditional knowledge or traditional wisdom, so it's of particular area. So, that is not a particular area. That is in fact of the entire country of the India, the whole Bharat.
I would like to give you one example. There is a place named Pattadkal. That place is in Karnataka, and this place was ruled. It was a cultural capital of actually the Chalukya kings, who ruled over some part of North India, not north exactly, some parts of Maharashtra you can say, and a larger part of South India. And there you find, it is the architecture which shows that how the Silpkaras, craftsmen migrated from different parts of the country, and you have a unique temple complex where you can find temples similar to Kanchipuram. Temples, you have a Kasi Viseswara temple, that is a typical example of Nagara temple. You have their example of North Indian style of temple, Gujarat style of temple, Kalinga Prasad kind of temple. You can find South Indian elements also, and the forces of commingling had been so rapid and powerful that a new style which we call Besra style that has emerged. So by this example you can understand.
It means people migrated to other areas just for the quest of knowledge and quest for the adopting some certain skill and coming back and developing his
Yes,
own
yes.
area. That has
That
also
has
been
been
a
one
factor.
very important factor.
Okay.
It is, you can say, it is ingrained in human psyche. Man is by birth a great traveler.
Okay.
We believe in moving from one region to another region. However, the migration theory on that we are discussing, that is bit different from what I have said. But what we find in Indian context, that migration in ancient times and in historical time had taken place not just because of economic compulsion. There had been religious factors, social factors, administrative and political factors also.
Okay. But when we talk about the last century, we find that the most of the migration because of the economic activity, or we say the for the occupation purpose.
Yeah, yeah. That is true in modern context. If a great number of laborers from Bihar, they have migrated to cities like Surat. It is the basic reason is economic.
Okay.
It is because of economic factor they are moving towards urban centers. They are moving towards those places where you have industries, where you have a good prospect for employment.
Okay. So how do you see in the coming years it will unfold itself?
I think the India has been immensely been benefited because of the migration. Now you can I am giving example of Gujarat, where even in the region of Bhuj you can find people from Middle Gangetic Plain, especially from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, who are working with different industrial setups. Gujarat cannot provide, the demography of Gujarat cannot provide so much of labor for their industries. So if they are migrating for a good purpose, and the result itself is wonderful, because it finally giving a substantial contribute to the economic growth of the country.
Okay. So it has been a win-win situation to both.
Yeah.
Even the area where the people migrated, and from the area where the people have come and settled down.
Yes,
because they send the money back, and
yes.
That
of
is
course,
that is known in
if you find that a very good number of houses in Bihar, they are pakka, they are made of brick today.
Yeah.
It is because of the money order economy.
Money
So
order
people,
economy, yeah.
people are earning, they are sending money to their parents, to their children, to their wives, and they have the aspiration to make a pakka house for themselves in a village. So in the development of Bihar also, you can say the immigrants, they have played a very dynamic role.
Okay. So we can say the money order economy has to stay.
Yes.
Okay.
Ultimately, it is
And
beneficial to the whole country.
Yeah, it's a part is also we can say substantial.
Yes.
Is there any kind of a study on this? How much proportion in the GDP and all this?
No, I can basically talk on the nature of migration in historical context.
Okay.
I
Economics.
have not been acquainted with any particular specific data on this particular subject.
Quantification
But
is not to be.
it is very conspicuous
Yeah.
that money order economy has played a significant role.
Okay. So.
Especially, I can quote example of Surat. You will be surprised to know that more than 4 lakhs of people settled in Surat. They are 4 to 5 lakh people who are settled in Surat. They are from East UP and Bihar.
Okay.
And they are working for different industries. They are working in the field of diamond, they are working in the field of cotton industries, and they are not now just laborers. Many of them have proved themselves great entrepreneurs also. So entrepreneurship also develops. It's not a matter of being a laborer in a factory. After some years, somebody thinks of an independent business. And in the growth, for example, growth of Surat as an industrial town and as a big hub of business activities, the role of the immigrants in that city had been very significant.
Okay. So, well, friends.
Even in it can be said in context of Mumbai.
Fine. So, well, friends, the topic of migration, it was as Dr. Anand Vardhan covered about 3,000 years. It was not possible to cover in 1 hour, but he brilliantly summed up all the important features and the main characteristic of the migration and explained well with giving examples. So I think you must have understood and what he wanted to convey, you have got them. So with this word, we conclude the lecture. I thank all of you for watching the lecture, and on your behalf, I thank Dr. Anand Vardhan for giving such an insightful lecture. Thank you very much.